Confined in a mirror. When I was in the 3rd grade, my parents packed my 2 younger brothers and myself and moved to a house on the outskirts of a small Ohio town. The house was at the end of a dead-end street, few houses, no railroad tracks, but surrounded by woods. The house had been built, lived in for 2 years, and repossessed by the bank. It sat empty for approximately 10 years before my parents bought it. There were 3 upstairs bedrooms, which were designated to my brothers and I. My room had 3 closets in it. I was a small child, and obviously didn't need 3 closets, so one of them sat empty. My great-grandmother gave me a mirror that had belonged to my great-great-grandmother before her. It was of medium size, and it trimmed in a gold metal braid. Every night, I would awake to hear that mirror vibrating on my wall. I would just lay there at 8 years old, terrified at what was causing it. I told my parents about it, but they refused to believe that something paranormal was in their home. After months of this, I had my brother, a year younger than me, sleep in my room. I had high hopes that he too would experience it. Not long after he finally fell asleep, the mirror started rattling on the wall. My brother took that mirror down and put it in my empty closet. From that moment on, my closet was cold. Several years later, I talked to my great-grandma about it. She told me she gave me that mirror on accident. She said it should have been blessed and dumped. Her mother had it before she did. It would also wake her. She took it down and slid it under her bed for some peace and quiet one night. When she was almost asleep, her mattress started moving up and down, like someone underneath was pushing up on it. Any ideas what that was in that mirror? That terrified me as a child. I've always been quite positive that it was an entity of some sort, trying to escape somehow. I was just never sure how it got trapped there, or what exactly it was. Broken mirror. I'm not really the type to write stories on this page, but what happened to me today was weird, and I'm hoping that maybe one of you can help. It happened this morning at approximately 8 a.m. I was sleeping, when all of a sudden I hear a loud breaking sound in my room. I woke up shocked and saw that my mirror was on the ground. Broken. Now, the weird thing about this story is that there is actually no way that this mirror just fell. There wasn't any wind except for my fan. Other than that, the windows were closed. Now my mirror was resting against the wall on my makeup desk, and for it to have fallen on its back is the weird part. Since it was resting, I would assume that it would have slipped and fell, whilst dropping all of my makeup off the desk. But the weird part is that nothing from my desk fell. My makeup boxes were in the same position as usual. I'm super confused about all of this and honestly have no explanation whatsoever. If any of you experienced anything like this, I would love to hear your stories down in the comments, or maybe some tips on what I should do, because I'm actually lost. I don't know if maybe I should get a priest or just call it a day and move on. I just hope this doesn't happen again with a new mirror that I'm going to buy, hopefully soon. Help me out in the comments below. A haunted mirror? This is my first story. I've never really considered myself a believer in the supernatural. I've just always thought there must be a rational explanation somewhere. However, recently this belief has been challenged because something happened to me that I can't explain, and it scared me a lot. This is what happened. There's this old building where I live, just across the railway. I convinced my cousin to explore it with me. We thought it was all very amusing at the time. There was nothing there really, just rubbish, old machinery, bottles, etc. However, I found a mirror, in all but perfect condition. I decided I wanted it, so we took it. I'm a student of fine arts, and for a while, I've been interested in painting on different surfaces, especially mirrors and glass, but I've been finding it difficult to source such material at a low cost. So when I found the mirror, I thought it was too good to leave behind. I cleaned it and moved the frame. I removed it, actually. That night, I painted a portrait of myself onto the surface of the mirror in oil paints. I left it to dry on a tarp on the floor of my bedroom. It was fine when I turned my lights out at about midnight and went to sleep. I remember noticing it and thinking how good it looked. So, I was very shocked and alarmed and annoyed in the morning when I woke up to find out large scratches all the way down it. The scratches moved down in a straight line and then pulled up again in a loop, as if the instrument had been dragged back up. There was also a section where the scratch marks intersected in a diagonal and diamond-like pattern. There was also small prick marks of paint, as if whatever made the marks had rested on the surface for a moment. I'm sorry if I can't explain it any better than that. I say instrument because the lines were too evenly spaced, clean and fine to have been made with fingers. They were clearly made with something like a fork, but not a regular fork, something more like a small rake because of the number of lines that were grouped together. I immediately examined my surrounding area. There was no paint smudged anywhere, and no signs of anything else having been disturbed. I checked the ends of all the paintbrushes, though I doubt they'd made the marks, and they were all clean as well. I didn't know what was going on. There were no instruments anywhere that could have made those marks. I thought perhaps maybe an animal, perhaps. But my window and door were shut, and my room is a new extension with no holes anywhere. I doubt even a mouse could have squeezed under the door. Even if it had, there was no fur or paw prints anywhere that I could see. And it would have to have like arms over 40 centimeters long to have made the marks in the way that they were made, and it was perfectly symmetrical. I thought perhaps it was some sort of abnormality in the surface of the mirror, and it had become visible as the paint settled into the surface, but it seemed completely smooth, and the marks extended beyond the painted surface. You could also see where the paint had been transferred from one end to the other. I have no siblings, and I only live with my nan and mom. They're very serious people and don't play jokes on anyone. They love my art and will never sneak into my room in the middle of the night to do that to a painting of mine. I know it wasn't them. I also saw their faces when I showed them that what happened. They were genuinely shocked. No one in my family did this. I doubt either of them, anyone for that matter, could have navigated their way across the sea of paint tins and jars strewn across my bedroom floor in the dark without knocking something over. I thought maybe I did it to myself in my sleep, but I have no history of sleepwalking that I know of, and again, I'm sure I'd have knocked something over if I had. Plus, to find something remotely matching the marks made, I'd have to go into the kitchen. They would have involved 3 doors, raking through the drawers without disturbing anything else, and then returning whatever it was I used, washing it, and then putting it away, and then closing the 3 doors behind myself again, and all without my mom waking up, whose bedroom door is always open, and only 3 meters away from the kitchen. I feel like it seemed highly unlikely I did that, even if it was manageable. The closest instrument that could be found in the kitchens matching the marks on the painting would be a fork, but like I said, they don't look like they were made with a fork. There are far too many prongs. There's something else as well. The tarp was torn. It definitely wasn't torn before. It was a new tarp and I was careful with it. I would have noticed. I tried to tear it myself to figure out how it had torn. I managed it, but it took a lot of strength and effort to tear. There was also the same prick marks around the tear in the tarp as were on the mirror. So, what do you think happened? Is there something really obvious that I'm missing out on? Or do you think that this was something supernatural? This happened a few days ago. I've since put the mirror in the shed in the backyard and nothing else has happened. Though, whenever I go into my shed, I now feel very scared. And I feel like there's a strange feeling in there. That might be a psychological thing though, because I'm still so confused and freaked out by the mirror incident. The mirror problem was breaking me. One Friday night in 2004, a very strange thing happened with a mirror that was over top my dresser. I was in my bedroom folding laundry and kept hearing what sounded like a frying bacon. I went all over the house looking for what could be making that sound. It was loudest in the bedroom. I checked all the plug outlets to make sure everything was okay with that. I checked above headlight fixtures, nothing. I had shut everything down for the night around 11 p.m. and headed for bed. Sometime in the night, I woke up and had an awful headache. I knew I wasn't dreaming. The pain in my head was too horrible and made me nauseous. After taking medication, I lay back down, and that's when I heard it again. Frying bacon. I lay there listening a few minutes, and finally turned on the lamp. I gazed around the room, and everything looked normal. Then my eyes caught sight of a glare on my mirror. My mirror was literally cracking. That's what the sound was. It started on the bottom left-hand side, and I watched as it slowly cracked, going diagonally to the other side. Maybe it could have been explained away to reasons due to science, but I wasn't aware of any reason for it to just start cracking. A few days later, I had my dad replace the glass, a rather expensive replacement I might add. I never heard the sound again until January 2006. I had remarried by then, and my husband woke me up one night and said, "Listen." I heard it right away and knew just what it was. I said, "It's the mirror." My husband's reply was, not knowing about the previous incident, "What? Why do you say that?" I reached and turned on the lamp. Sure enough, it was cracking the same as before and in the same direction. Another expensive replacement the next day. He was shocked at the fact that I knew that it was it right away, and even more shocked when I told him the previous story. Had I told him anything that went on in the house, I didn't want him to be scared off. It's been years since. So far, no more cracking mirrors. My wallet can breathe a little easier. Mirrors do not naturally fall from walls. 3 years ago, I moved from Calgary to Edmonton. Both are cities in Alberta, and I'm pretty sure my house is haunted. Many incidences have happened in my house, but I will only mention one. This first incident happened about 2 years ago, after I moved into my new home. It was during the summertime, and my parents were out at a karaoke bar. It was pretty late, and I was just sitting on a couch in the living room, playing on my iPad. I have 3 dogs, and for some reason they all seemed really nervous. They kept pacing around and growling a bit. It was also unusually cold in the house, especially for the summertime. Suddenly, I heard a huge crashing noise from where I was sitting. I couldn't see what it was. I felt frozen with fear. After I got over the shock, I went around the corner to check the stairs and the front door. We have an entrance room that has a coffee table with a mirror hanging on the wall above it. The coffee table also has a bunch of picture frames and rocks from our travels on it. When I entered the entrance room to check the front door, the mirror had fallen off the wall. All the stuff on the table was scattered on the floor. There is no way that mirror could have fallen. It was literally nailed to the wall. I went outside with my dogs, waiting for my parents to get home. My parents did get home, but they don't believe in the supernatural. They are the type of parents that think that there is a reasonable explanation for everything. I know for sure there is no explanation, especially no reasonable explanation, other than a supernatural cause for that particular incident. My great-granny's mirror. What is it about mirrors that make them so creepy? I can't figure it out. But I have here a true personal story involving one of my childhood. It begins now. I grew up in a small town in the Piedmont region of Virginia. Rolling country hills, one high school. Everyone was your neighbor. That sort of thing. It was me, my mother, my father, and my brother. And just for the purpose of the story, my brother is 6 years older than me. Well, my town was pretty small. As I said before, so small that my family, my grandmother and her husband, and my great-grandmother and her husband, all lived in 3 separate houses, about 1 mile apart from each other. Once my great-grandfather died in 1989, my grandma moved in with her mother to help take care of us, as she was getting old in years herself. This didn't bother my grandma, as her and her husband's house was only 500 feet down the gravel road. I don't remember too much about my great-granny. I just remember that she was always very grumpy, that she would always yell at my brother and I when we would go over to her house to play. My brother and I would do this because her house was very small, and our great-granny's house was a big, open Cape Cod-style house, with plenty of rooms to run around and spread out our toys. When my great-granny passed away in the first week of February 1994, it took a toll on my family, because within that very same week, my grandfather passed away as well. This means my grandma lost her mom and her husband both within 5 days' time. I also need to mention that my great-granny was on hospice care, and she died in the comfort of her home in her chair, surrounded by her family. As I grew on in age, 8, 9, 10 years old, I started to retain a better memory about that house, and really just how creepy it was. The upstairs in particular, as my brother and I were really rarely ever allowed up there. This became especially true since my grandma ended up selling her and her husband's house down the gravel road and permanently living in this one. And due to the trauma of losing her mother and husband in 1 week, she developed a pretty bad hoarding habit. Sometimes, when my brother and I were visiting, my grandma would be occupied with her Avon downstairs, and we'd sneak upstairs to snoop through all the four cluttered rooms. But one room up there was always catching my attention. I found myself feeling very lightheaded whenever I go near, and sometimes feelings of unease or dread would overcome me. It was just your normal room, very small hardwood floors, and only a twin bed and a small dresser, and a lot of junk like old Christmas boxes, Avon products, and my great-granny's worn clothes. But over in the corner of the room, right beside a small crawl-in storage area, was a mirror. I always found myself strangely attached and attracted to this mirror for some reason. It gave me an eerie sort of feeling, one I can still very much feel to this day. I often caught my brother giving a strange glance every now and then too. It wasn't until I started seeing this mirror in my dreams that I started to question its history and why my conscience was showing it to me in my sleeping state of mind. The dreams were very vivid, and as frightening as they were, I never questioned during the dreaming itself what was happening or why I was there. I sort of felt like I was there for a reason, you know? They started with me standing on the porch of the house, staring at the door. It was nighttime and quiet all around me, with a slight breeze. A very warm and comfortable summer night. The dream progressed with me making my way into the house, except something was a bit off. I was floating, and whenever I'd enter a room inside, the door would open for me. All the lights were off inside, but I could still see from the full moon eerily casting its bright light through the open windows. The outside breeze making the curtains dance around inside. Everything seemed to be in slow motion. I make my way upstairs, where I'm guided each time to the same room, with the mirror. This is the part of the dream where I sense an impending feeling of doom. I make my way in front of the mirror, but oddly enough, I never see my reflection. I'm forced to stare at it when all of a sudden, an apparition of my great-granny appears. Her skin looks gray and cold, her eyes dark and hollow. The uneasy feeling grows more and more as I stare and start to realize that I am now aware I am dreaming. I'm scared to die, and I need to wake myself up somehow. Then all of a sudden, the image in the mirror turns truly sinister. Her mouth widens, her eyes glow a deep shade of red, and she lets out the most terrifying scream. This is when I wake up, covered in sweat. I had the exact same dream a great many times growing up, but I never knew its significance, if there was any at all. I never told anyone about it, not even my grandma. Fast forward to around 4 years ago, 2012, my grandma lost her battle to cancer on Mother's Day. My family and I took part in the huge responsibility of cleaning up that house. We had plans to sell it and move to San Antonio, Texas, where we currently are. The dream had escaped me for some time, being I had not been in there for 10 years. But when my brother and I, now in our 30s, had the duties of cleaning out that room, the eeriness of it all returned to me. "We had a lot of fun times up here snooping around, didn't we, little brother?" you said. "I don't remember too much of it, but yes, fun times," I said. My brother lifts his finger and points. "Hey, do you remember that mirror right there?" "Yes," I said. "It was always very creepy to me, but why do you ask?" To which he replied, Just wondering. I'm not sure if you ever knew, but that mirror was our great-granny's favorite mirror from her childhood. And it just so happens that right below that mirror, directly parallel to downstairs, sits the chair that our great-granny died in. As if that didn't make my skin crawl enough. He pauses for a second, grins, and with a confused look he says, "You know, for some reason, I used to have the strangest dreams about that mirror." My mirror experience. In 2011, my boyfriend and I bought a home together. Shortly after moving in, I was expecting an important phone call. One morning, I woke up to see the message light blinking on my phone. Thinking I might have missed the call, I decided to listen to the message. However, I had recently bought 2 new phones and wasn't quite sure how to work the answering machine. I started out by trying out on the kitchen phone. I hit the button that worked for my old phone, but it wasn't going to be that easy. I ended up messing up the phone, not knowing what to do to fix it. I put it back on the charging base and hoped that it would fix itself. I then walked through the living room and into my bedroom to try on the phone I have in there. The only way into the bedroom is through the living room, as it used to be the garage. From the bedroom door, you can see all of my bedroom. I have the phone set up on the bathroom counter by the double sinks. My bathroom sink is not in the bathroom, as the actual bathroom is too small to accommodate it. It instead sits just outside of the bathroom door. So I went to the counter and picked up the phone, this time not touching anything. Just looking at it, and trying to figure out how to work the answering machine. I studied it for about 5 minutes or so, but just couldn't figure out what to do. So I put the phone down and looked up into the mirror. I saw an older woman with long blonde hair, wearing what looked like a nightgown, a white one, walking behind me. My first thought was that someone had broken in. I quickly looked behind me, but no one was there. I looked back into the mirror but didn't see her again. It was then that I remembered a few things. One was, I have bars on all the windows of my house, so no one could get in through my windows. The second being, there is no door leading to outside from my bedroom. The third being, she would have already had to be in my room because she was moving from left to right, and I would have seen her when I entered the room. The fourth being, that I just gone up and so both my doors were still locked tight. The fifth thing was that I had just come from the living room, which is an open plan. I can see the living room, dining room, and both doors from the kitchen, so no one could have gone in without me noticing. I still checked the entire house just to be sure. Finding no one. It was only then that I allowed myself to believe that what I saw was paranormal. I heard of people seeing things in mirrors, but this was the first time anything like this has happened to me. Don't try mirror syncing. I'm sure I said this other than what it was, but I'll have to check. But for now, I have a story, if you remember, to try this. Something to make you think twice. Me and my friend Rowan were watching scary videos when we stumbled upon one called The Most Haunted Mirror. This piqued our interest, so we clicked on it. It talked of a girl who bought a black mirror for her mother. Things turned terrible, but this isn't about them, it's about me. We were curious in this mirror thing, so we searched it up. First mistake. We learned more and more about this, and we discussed it and how interesting it was. We decided to try it that night. So I got an old mirror. It was small and a makeup compact for eyeshadow. I remember the color voodoo, we used it because of that, playing it off as a joke. We went to the bathroom farthest from everyone, so that when I had to piss in the middle of the night and was desperate, wouldn't have to walk farther. We turned on the shower and only steamed half of it up. Second mistake. We looked deep into it, as the website instructed. Nothing. I knew something was off in the very beginning, but chose to ignore it. I was stupid. We played paranormal games before this that worked, such as Cat Scratch. We felt a vibe from it. It felt evil, so demonic. It felt physically paining. We wanted to save ourselves with the lowest budget possible, with us being children and all. We turned to blessing it. The one problem? We didn't own holy water. So we made some. We called it off-brand holy water. We used it. We drowned that shit while spewing Bible verses. We blessed each other. When she went home, that's when we got to today. I was homesick. I was physically sick from it. My right eye is super dry. I don't know why. My left is fine, but my right one always feels like it's burning. I fell asleep then woke up and watched some YouTube as I was bored out of my skull. I went to the bathroom. I should know that the bathroom is across from my closet, so when you walk to the bathroom, you have a clear view of it. So I was walking, and I saw this white thing, almost demon-looking thing crawl by, fast. It was human, like a male figure. I didn't see anything that could determine the sex, however. The only way I could describe it was that if you got Hitman 47 and threw him in a nuclear reactor. I darted to the bathroom and hesitated to walk out. Once I did, however, it was gone. That leads me to now. I sat on the bed and downloaded Reddit to tell this bring a hammer just in case. I don't know what to do. I hate this. Please send suggestions. I have a feeling this has to do with those aliens taking over Shane was talking about, is it? I don't know if it seems too human. I don't know. I keep hearing footsteps around the corner, and I'm on the brink of tears. I'm not looking, that's for sure. I'll stay here. Please help me.